Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the founder of IoT World, Gavin Whitechurch.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Internet of Things World 2016. It's great to see so many of you here. You know, it's been an amazing journey over the 3 years of Internet of Things World. You know, we started 3 years ago up the street in Palo Alto, and we said to people we'd have 350 people, actually had 700. Last year in San Francisco, 5,800, and then here we're expecting 10,000 people across the 3 days of the show. And, you know, that just really shows you the amazing growth that's in the IoT space at the moment. You know, and it's really driven up through the ecosystem, and we're at this point now where, you know, in the next year and the next years, you're going to see many, many more diverse enterprise deployments of IoT. And so I think the show that we have here really reflects that. What I really love about what we have here in the show is it really brings together the entire ecosystem of IoT and enterprise case studies as well. So you'll see many, many case studies across the next 3 days. Particularly when we go into tomorrow and on Thursday when we start breaking into all the vertically oriented tracks and the horizontally oriented tracks that you'll see in the show. But a new feature of the show this year is this day you have today, the Executive Keynote Day. And we've really added this day because we wanted to talk about the business transformation that's being enabled by IoT. You know, how companies are actually using IoT to really revolutionize business models and find completely new ways of doing things. So we've got some of our most exciting content in this day today. It's great to see you here today. Also, there's a few other things going on today. So obviously the hot ticket is the VIP party at the Levi Stadium, host of Super Bowl 50 across the street. So, you know, if you've got a ticket for that, please do come along. We'd love to see you tonight. We also have another couple of sessions going on today, the autonomous car session, which is over in the other ballroom, and part of our startup program is also on today. So we have the Startup University running today. And one of the new features of the show in this iteration, the 2016 iteration, is the Project Kairos investor and startup connection program we have running. And a complete startup city you'll see in the exhibition tomorrow and the following day. With over 80 startups all showing what they're doing in the field of IoT. So that's just a flavour of some of the things we have for you over the next few days. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming. Thank you to all our sponsors. We look forward to seeing you. Please come and talk to me over the next couple of days. If you have anything to say about the show, I'd love to hear your feedback. And with no further ado, I'd like to get on with the business of today and introduce our chairman for today, Bruce Sinclair. Bruce.
Build a better mousetrap, and the world will beat a path to your door. This was said over 100 years ago by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I think it still rings true today, especially here in the Silicon Valley. However, when we're talking about IoT, it's not quite enough. One of the things I love about the Internet of Things is I get to work with all kinds of interesting companies. I get to work with interesting companies that are working on both the technology and helping them with the business. One of my favorite and most interesting clients is a third-generation family-run business that was started by a Hungarian chemist 64 years ago. He found that mice were sticking to his wallpaper. So, like any good entrepreneur, he made a pivot. He moved from Europe to Brooklyn, New York. He changed his business from selling wallpaper paste to selling mouse traps. After he retired, his son took the business to great lengths. He moved into new markets, and more specifically, he moved into B2B market. Today, I'm working with his 2 grandsons, and they want to make a real mark on the business themselves. And so what they're doing is they're introducing the Internet of Things into their mousetraps. So what a great client, right? I'm actually helping them literally build a better mousetrap. But it hasn't all been easy. So like usual, we're working on our prototype, and we've had some problems. Initially, what we were hoping that was going to happen is that when the mice went inside the mousetrap, we would get a text. But it turns out that mice are still using flip phones, and so therefore, it takes a lot longer for them to send the text. So we're going to pivot, just like we have to pivot in all other IoT companies I worked with, to move to a new design. For the Internet of Things to reach its true potential, to reach the business potential, we need to move beyond the smart product. We need to move beyond the connected product, and we need to get to the IoT product. An IoT product is virtualized, and so it's a form of software that interfaces with the internet, allowing you to bring the full bear of the internet onto the problem at hand. Now, we've had connected products for years. They're just a little bit of embedded system, giving some intelligence. Same thing with connected products. But to get to real value of the Internet of Things, we need to build a business. Now, you've all seen the numbers. They're huge. The stakes are very high. In fact, they're so high, I can't tell whether they're accurate or whether the assumptions that they're based upon are true. But they're huge. And these huge numbers are what's creating all the hype for the Internet of Things. But despite the hype, and we have so much hype actually, that we have our own hype curve. But despite the hype, the Internet of Things is really just an evolution. It's not a revolution. The Internet of Things, in my view, is simply the current Internet extending further and further into physical objects. And despite the hype, the opportunity is real. If you look and see who is actually trying to go after the early adopters of this market, the market's not that big today. But it's all these large, multi-billion-dollar enterprises. Why? Because in the outcome-based economy, it's going to be those companies that establish a beachhead with an IoT platform and an IoT ecosystem that are going to reap the most rewards in their particular industry. All incremental value from an IoT product comes from transforming its data into useful information. And that value can come in 4 different places. Number 1, make products better. Number 2, operate products better. Number 3, service product better. And number 4, make new products. In some cases, a derivative of the existing products using utility or usability model, or sometimes they're completely new information-based products. The big advantage for IoT and an IoT product is that we have this 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week window into our customer's business. Not only do we see what they're doing with our products, but we see how they're making money. This is the key to business nirvana, and this is the key to the outcome-based economy. But we have challenges. We've got some pretty big challenges that we have to overcome. 2 of the biggest obstacles are cybersecurity and standardization, or the lack thereof of standardization. Cybersecurity is even more challenging because not only do we have to consider the data at rest, like in IT, but we also have to consider data in motion. Not only do we have to consider networking security, but we actually also have to consider app security, mobile security, cloud security, and then wrapping it all together, we have to consider system security. But the biggest challenge, I think, in the Internet of Things is today we look at it as a technology. We're not looking at it as a business. And it's really easy to look at the shiny things, to get distracted from the shiny things. In my view, if you look at the Internet of Things from the things perspective, it's really the tail wagging the dog. We need to take a different perspective. Now, relatively speaking, technology for Internet of Things, for cybersecurity, for standardization, it's relatively simple. For us to really overcome these challenges, business needs to get involved. For cybersecurity, for example, we need to make investments there. Now, the business counterpart to cybersecurity is risk management. In risk management, we sit around a table. We've got the tech team on one side, we've got the business team on the other side. And we determine the risk by looking at each attack surface. The tech guys say, well, this is the likelihood of an attack happening here between 0 and 1. The business guys say, this is the liability of an attack happening here between 0 and 1. Multiply the two numbers together, and even though it is a bit more of an art than a science, at least it's more of a logical and disciplined way to provide investments to security. And we can do that for standardization as well, by voting with our dollars. We need to be standardizing we need to be standardizing the entire fog layer from the cloud all the way to the device. Now, standardization has proliferated in terms of, I should say, we have so many proprietary protocols, and the culprit is the OT network, right? The OT network is the operational technology network. And there are literally hundreds of proprietary technologies that have emerged from M to M. So it is, if you look at any particular industry, there's going to be proprietary technology attached. However, if we vote with our dollars and we say we want Internet Protocol, IP, version 4, version 6, it'll get into our vendors' products or onto their product roadmap. But again, it's the perspective, I think, that you need to look at that's different. Not the shiny things, but looking at it from the perspective of value. Value drives everything. So looking at value, it tells us what's the information that we need. The information then dictates what do we purchase in terms of development environments? What do we purchase in terms of modeling environments? What type of analytics packages do we need to purchase, again, to support that value that we've identified? The value also identifies the data. Data from an internet data service and also from the sensors. Now notice the sensors, or these shiny things, are almost the last thing that I've been speaking about here. And it's because they're almost the last thing that should be considered when looking at technology. However, the real last thing is the internet platform, is the IoT platform, because really it's the plumbing. And you're going to see, I'm going to talk about it, it's very important for our future, but it is the plumbing and it needs to support all the above. An outcome-based economy starts with outcomes. So let me use an example from my client's customer. Their biggest customer, one of their biggest customers are commercial bakeries. Commercial bakeries are huge facilities. Now, the outcome that they're looking for and the outcome that we participate in is they want a clean and healthy environment that passes regulation, that passes inspection. A clean and healthy environment that passes inspection. That's the outcome they want. They don't want a mouse trap. Let alone they don't want the mice inside the mouse trap. They're looking for an outcome. So in the case of when we start thinking about outcomes, instead of point products solving point solutions, if we shift our view and we start thinking about outcomes, things start getting interesting. So for the mousetrap company, we recognize that there's actually two other industries that are involved here. The first one is sanitation. If you keep the environment very clean, the mice have no motivation to go inside. The second one is construction. If you maintain an integral perimeter on the building, this big facility, then it's more difficult for the mice to get inside. And so it's only after a mouse has somehow smelled something interesting and they've been able to get past the perimeter, so to speak, is when you need to catch them. So there's three. So we need to bring together, for this outcome, we need to bring together the business and the technology for the construction industry, for the sanitation industry, and for the extermination industry. Now, luckily, there's two trends that are happening right now that are helping this along. The first one is the IoT business, or I should say the IoT technical continuum. And the second one is the IoT business model continuum. In the IoT technical continuum, I look at it this way. We're starting with smart products. In the case of the mouse, perhaps the mouse goes inside the mousetrap, the mouse goes inside, the local logic shuts the door behind it. In the case of the connected mousetrap, Well, we know we want it to send a text message, but also maybe we want to actuate it in some way, see what's going on. That's good. In an IoT mousetrap, however, we can start utilizing the internet. So not only can we incorporate data, let's say from data services like weather, media services, or I should say weather services like temperature, humidity, but we can also apply analytics and start generating real value. In our case, what we're doing is we're using analytics to define mice migration patterns within the facility. Moving from there, we then go to networks of products. Networks of products are really just product lines. In our case, we have our individual mousetraps, and then we have our separate sensors that are individual. These products need to talk together. At the same time, in the construction, they have their own product line, and the sanitation, they also have a product line. So we need to bring together, the platform is next. The IoT platform brings together the technology of each of these product lines. Each of these product lines are all working together, orchestrated together, to be able to provide the outcome that the customer wants. You can see that has more value. Now, at the same time, on the business model, it's also on a continuum. The product business model is a one and done. Nobody wants to have a mousetrap sitting on their balance sheet depreciating. So we move a little bit further up. We move to the service. And everyone talks about product as a service. So for the mousetrap, we sell it as a service, which makes a lot of sense because the construction industry and the sanitation industry, they're both doing a service-based model. Now, going a little bit further than that, we go to an outcome-based business model. An outcome-based business model means that we are being paid based on the outcome that we're promising. So if we have to deliver a clean and healthy environment that passes, that's the key thing, that passes inspection. The outcome business model ends up being the closest. This is what the customer wants, right? And so ultimately what happens is our business model gets closer and closer to the business model of our customers. Now, the end of the technology road is the IoT platform, or the IoT platform of platforms. The end of the business model road is, again, this outcome-based business model, where we monetize simply on the results. Now, the irony here is once we can put together the products and orchestrate them and deliver the result that the customer wants, the features of the products no longer become that important. Really, the feature that becomes important is the business model. And the business model, at some point, becomes really the only feature. Now, if we expand our view a little bit further for the mouse company, their outcome eventually is going to need to expand from clean and healthy to cover their supply chain, to cover their manufacturing, that is the baking goods, and then to cover their distribution. Each one of those segments is going to have a different ecosystem associated with it. And it is the collection of those ecosystems together that make the outcome-based economy. So, welcome to Internet of Things World 2016. My name is Bruce Sinclair, and I'll be the chairman for the rest of the day.